with a realignment of military strategy on both sides of the war in Ukraine. Let's talk to security expert Temitope Olodo, who joins us from Kent in England. Thank you so much for your time. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Now let's start with the Ukrainian side. I mean, if everything we have heard is to be believed, the Ukrainians have stopped being defensive. They've gone on the offensive. They themselves are now attacking targets in Russia. Would you say that that is viable going forward, especially since they seem to be outnumbered on the ground in terms of military personnel, launching new attacks on new fronts, while you are also having to defend a major offensive? Is it viable, do you think?
It depends on the amount of weapons and support they get from their Western allies. As you know, almost close to, I think, $800 million of equipment is going to be shipped from the United States, not to talk of what the British are doing and other NATO countries. So when you look at it from that perspective, I've been wondering, and I know many analysts have been concerned that, Ukrainians have not even tried to take the battle away from their doorstep into Russia to let Russia feel at least a bit of the pain. Because if we're saying that there's a news blockout in Russia, once they start hitting Russia assets, that news will actually have to leak out one way or the other. But saying that, we still need to understand that we're talking about Russia here, who launched overnight over 1,260, attacked at least 1,260 infrastructures or targets within Ukraine. And the Ukraine president have actually come out to say over 30% of their infrastructure have been destroyed. So we don't know how far this is going to go. And with the new offensive by Russia, into the east, which is mainly the Russian-speaking aspect of Ukraine, the whole game is wide open, because the Ukrainians have said that they're not going to let Russia stay on their territory, and Russia is insisting that territory is going to be carved out. So what are we going to see after post the war, if we want to be looking at it from that perspective? Is it going to be a guerrilla warfare? Is it that Russians will face the same fate that they faced in Afghanistan? Those are questions that many analysts are plodding over and looking into the history book to try and determine how this game is going to continue.
Let's flip the coin and look at it from the Russian perspective. Now, as you pointed out, that attacks are now going into Russia, if indeed what we are hearing this morning are to be believed. The Ukrainians are now taking the battle to Russia. At the same time, Russia, as you've just pointed out, is launching this major new offensive in the Donbas region. And if the numbers that we have been told are anything to go by, there may be anything like 100,000, 120,000 troops, Russian troops, that is involved in this. And of course, there's the added advantage that this is the Russian-speaking part of Ukraine, and the area where Ukraine already has lost effective control to the Russians. Is this going to probably be any easier for the Russians, considering that they've suffered some setbacks in the other areas that they had gone to, particularly Kiev and a couple of others?
Yeah, I think from the onset, there was a miscalculation by the Russians in terms of their belief that they will be able to just stroll through, through Ukraine, and with people standing on the roadside to welcome them. Now they are shifting their strategy to go into the Russian-speaking area. And it is important for viewers to know that this is an area where there have been conflict for at least close to 8 years. And this particular area have always seen themselves as being part of Russia. Based on that, because nothing is certain in war, based on that, it's more likely to say 70% that Russia will have much victory in that particular area. And of course, they have the military might, and they have the people in that area who, align themselves with Russia. So it's much easier. It's not like when they're trying to go into the other part of Ukraine where citizens have been given weapons. We've not heard so far, and I stand to be corrected, that Ukraine have been able to distribute weapons to people in that particular area to fight the Russians. So that again make us to come or infer or draw a conclusion that Russians might more or less have a better success, military success in that particular area. The question then is, would that help to ease down the tension? The fact is, NATO is getting stronger because of some of the rhetoric conversation coming out of Russia that, warning Finland and the other countries not to join NATO. So the question is, this war might be stopped maybe through a peaceful negotiation once Russia managed to capture that particular area and carve it out. The issue then is, what will Ukraine do? Will they continue with the guerrilla warfare? And will NATO actually back that? Because what they're going to do is militarize that particular area that we're talking about. So we are moving back into the Cold War, whether we like it or not, from the look of things.
There are two things, of course, from what you just said. Now, the first is that Vladimir Zelensky has said they will not give up any inch of a Ukrainian territory. The second is that overnight, Ukraine submitted a questionnaire, it is said, to the EU in response to a request earlier made, and that they're hoping that in short order they will become a candidate for the European Union membership. Now, people have pointed out that this is the EU we are talking about, not NATO. That because NATO is the military alliance, the EU is economic, basically. But at this stage of conflict, do you think that this fine line between what is economic and what is military will really matter to the Russians, especially given the fact that they don't seem to have achieved the objectives that they set out at the beginning?
I think if we could read the body language of the Russians, I think it's the NATO aspect of it that they are more concerned about and not the Europeans. At least they sell oil, gas to the Europeans. So, even Ukraine joins them or not, it doesn't change anything. I think Ukraine definitely will need to join the European Union, which one way or the other. But from an emotional perspective, there's more possibility that they will join the European Union if they are allowed to join it, so that at least their loss could be absorbed. Ukraine will need many years to be able to recover from the damage that has been inflicted on them by the Russians armed forces. And we knew from history that even the UK government, the UK as a country, was still paying money to the Americans, for the Second World War. So Ukraine is going to be in debt. The only way to be able to absorb that debt is if they are part of Europe, so that everything they own, their whole place, their development will be part of Europe. I will actually recommend that if I'm actually advising them. That would be the best way forward. The NATO aspect is going to be a bit dicey, but if they do that, because look at our young ones that have gone to Ukraine, that in 4th year, 3rd year, how would they can't go back to that place. That place is not a place for them to go back to. And I'm hoping that the Nigerian government, as they're listening to your program, will actually come together and look at how they could help these youths, give them scholarship to be able to go to other countries, because the curriculum might be quite different from the Nigerian one. But that aside, I think that might be the best option for Ukraine to join European Union, so that their debt and all their development might be taken over by Europe. And if that continent takes over, or that particular bloc take over, their development might be much faster than if they go it alone, borrowing money for every part of the world.
Indeed, one can only hope that all of this will come to pass properly. I want to thank you very much, Mr. Temitope Olodo, who joins us from Kent virtually today. Thank you for your time and for your perspective.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.